In this video, we're going to discuss blueprint and construction of residential buildings. And we're going to go over some of the common items you'll find in a construction and to determine how the house should be designed and how heat load will affect the outcome of heat loss or heat gain through. So in this here, we're going to discuss the overview. It's going to cover residential building fundamentals. And here's the objectives we're going to be covering in this video. Understanding terminology with regards to foundation, wall framing, attics, and other type of wall structures. Understand in Illinois, looking at the weatherization approach to understanding how crawl space ventilation. We're not going to go into too much of that, but we'll look at how it's constructed. But understand the importance of these vapor barriers you find in houses to make a house more efficient. Since it's a heat load class, we need to understand everything that is necessary to make a house as efficient as possible. And going through other type of things. So basically, a foundation is what holds the house up. It's what the wood framing for the walls, and it has to be large enough and strong enough to support the complete structure of a house. So, different things you may find. Basements are common in the Midwest because the temperatures get down to very low temperatures. They use basements to keep them from having cold floors on the living space. Crawl spaces are another way where it's not a livable space, but it's a space below the house. And that's where they can put mechanicals or plumbing or electrical fixtures or conduits for the structure. So the foundation wall is what supports the house, and it's really having the floor above grade level. Grade is the dirt or the structure that is actually on the ground. But also sometimes you may find slabs. There are slabs in the Midwest, but you're not going to find it very often in certain type of construction. If it is a concrete slab, basically the slab has to be kept at a certain temperature, so they would run ductwork within the inside of this concrete slab to add heat to it. Without that, the floors get very cold. As a matter of fact, it could condensate or even frost based on the outdoor temperature. These are different types. These are block walls, and you can see some problems with that, moisture seeping through. This is concrete poured walls, which is fairly new for most construction these days because it's a stronger wall and it can withstand a great deal of weight. Of course, they could be brick walls or stone. These are older construction type of methods they used years ago. And in some parts of the country, a lot of times if houses was close to mountains or very rocky areas, they would build a house right on top of the ground because it was hard enough with rocks, or they actually blasted out parts of the basement or the crawl space to build a house on top of it because the ground was solid enough to support it. Here's some of the things. Here's a slab in the basement. The footing. The footing is what you build the foundation wall on. The footing is wider and then the walls, and it's spread out completely around the perimeter of the foundation wall to support it. And the footing will always be mounted below the frost line of the area. So in the Illinois area, the frost line is around 32 inches, so you commonly find the footing at least 36 inches or lower. If you got a basement, of course, it's going to be lower than that. Then we have the foundation wall. Could be block, could be poured, or other type of materials. We have a mud sill or sill plate, which would be on top of the foundation wall. The floor joists would be mounted on top of that. Okay. Then from that they would build the walls. And the walls will have exterior, interior, based on the sheeting you would have. So as we look at this, we have the portions of the terminology for a foundation. There you go. This is This will be the major point of concern for air leaking into a house. When we talk about infiltration, that is one of the biggest points of it, because there's seams and there's joints, and these joints is where air can leak through. We have other things, issues, when we're dealing with crawl spaces. Crawl spaces, of course, is a place where people just put things in, and it could be a health issue. And if there's a leaky basement, moisture can get there, and the moisture can get into the house and cause mold to grow. So we have to be concerned about a lot of crawl spaces, making sure that it's dry. Also, vent openings, making sure that the grate is away from any vent, so water doesn't run back into the crawl space. You can see in this picture here that water had been running down for some time, and you can see that the damage it caused from moisture. Ventilation, we're not going to go into this too often, but there have to be a certain amount of airflow in a crawl space. Unfortunately, the vents we put in would never be large enough to be able to get enough ventilation through a crawl space to keep moisture from leaving it if you get moisture in it. So a lot of times you say if you seal the walls up as good as possible, you really don't need any ventilation if we seal the walls from moisture or vapor. So now to get into crawl spaces, there's some ways we'll do it. We will seal the walls up with insulation. We put some type of visqueen or some type of sheeting like plastic over the crawl space floor. We will seal it up to make sure there's no moisture that can leak through, just through vapors from the ground. So this will keep the basement from having issues with moisture building up in the rocks or the dirt, or sometimes even concrete. Other ways they do it, putting panels. This is a perfect way to do it. They would seal the plastic completely against the wall. They would mechanically fasten it to the wall, and they would tape all the seams to make sure there's no vapors. Here's another way they could use these furring strips, and they would nail it to the wall so the plastic sheeting doesn't fall off, but also to seal it against the wall too. Here's some problems if you got poor foundations and the things that can happen. Now this is exterior walls here. This is the inside here, but where you see this sheeting here, that's on the outerior of the walls. That is actually to give some stability to the walls, but also some insulation value also. But it's a vapor barrier to actually keep air from leaking in through the walls. This is a picture of what we call balloon framing. And this balloon framing is where we have multiple components, where we see that there's the studs start from the foundation wall and go all the way up to the top of the house. If it's 2 stories like this picture, it would have the first story, the floor joists for the second story, and it would go all the way up. So balloon framing, you always could tell because it would have the studs that would go completely up to the attic. So, and they would put braces to help support it. So here's some of the things we're going to look at. Wood shingles, we got the shingles nailers. That's, of course, this is very old construction. And we may find houses that was built back in the 40s and 20s or 30s, and it would have this type of construction. Diagonal sheeting. This giving the wall support from the balloon framing, from the studs. This is the cladding on the outside of it. It may be cladding or might be wood shingles. Matter of fact, it might be covered with other type of materials too. The ledger board. The ledger board is always a board that goes from one side to the other. It will be perpendicular to the sill or to the ground. Wall studs. Fire blocks. They put blocks in just in case to keep air from going through. If there's a fire, it will help keep from pulling air from other locations to keep the fire going. So they use fire stops. Lath and plaster, that's on the inside, the interior walls. They put lath which is like furring strips, and they would plaster right on top of the lath boards. Cross breakings from the floor joists to keep it from deflecting and moving. They would use a structural post to support the floors. They would use a beam to support the floors. Use subflooring. It will go diagonally, reason why, so the seams do not match up to give it more stability. Of course, the second floor joists, roof rafters, ceiling joists. This is a house that has balloon framing. You can see they took the outside sheeting, you can see it going all the way up from the first floor, from where the foundation wall is at, all the way to the attic. This is another picture showing how it's constructed. If you're in an attic, you would actually see the studs, and there will be a gap in the walls. This is balloon framing again. This is the attic. And you can see this is the basement. We can see the opening in the walls and the stud, and it goes straight up to the attic. This is what we call platform framing. And the platform framing is used on newer type construction, and it is designed to be able to build one floor at a time, and we go up. So the shingles at the top, we got the roof sheeting, the trusses, a gusset plate for the trusses will give the trusses support and strength. We got the double top plate, and that is supporting the trusses. So they will put a double stud there, a 2x4. The stud is used for walls. Exterior sheeting, it could be anything. It could be vinyl, it could be some type of ply, it could be wood sheeting, but they use always some type of sheeting on the outside walls. Drywall on the inside instead of the lath and plaster. A bottom plate would be like the sill plate. Rim joists. Studs for the floor joists. We got bracing. We got floor joists. Some type of structure to help support it could be a metal beam, it could be a wood beam, or a metal post.